Welcome to an ETV interview special. I'm Bryan Baumgartner, and I'm joined today by the Dean of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences, Dr. Stephen Kunz. Dr. Kunz, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here. Now, how's your transition to Edinboro been so far?
It's actually been great. The weather's been nice ever since I got here. People are very friendly. It's really all I'd hoped for.
Now, before you came to Edinboro, you were the Dean at Hawaii Pacific. What was it like working there?
Well, it was a different environment because it's a private school with a different mission, and we were also in downtown Honolulu where you have over 1 million people. So it's actually a very different kind of place. But when you talk about the basics, working with students, working with faculty, trying to provide the best education that you can for our students, that part of the job really is very similar.
Now, you have an extensive background in communication studies as you were a professor at Loyola Marymount for a long time before you became the dean at Hawaii Pacific. Can you talk a little bit more about your background?
Sure, and my area in communication studies is rhetoric, which is really the use of language. So I didn't get involved in media and the use of visual images for a while, but rhetoric spans a broad area, and I really got a broad perspective on the discipline. And then later on, my discipline started figuring out that media and culture are supremely important to understanding how we use words, how we persuade others and influence others. And so I developed a much broader understanding over time about some of those implications. So I did look at popular culture in some of my research and work later on. I was looking at Chinese philosophy and the intersections of rhetorical theory and Chinese studies. So there are some real interesting things you can do with communication. And of course, I also had the opportunity to work with people that were doing the media side of communication, including the screenwriting and animation, filmmaking, and some of these other areas. And even before that, I came from the University of Southern California, which has a strong background in communication and media, and is one of the 2 Annenberg schools in the country, the other being at Penn. And I've kept professional contact with those people over the years. So I've seen the profession really grow and strengthen itself over time. And I see a lot of opportunities for what communication can do for people and to make the world a better place for everyone.
Now, what are some of those opportunities that you're talking about?
Well, you can look at a lot of examples, but let's look at journalism. One of the things that's really interesting in journalism these days is citizen media, the citizen journalist. And you look at some of the uprisings and revolutions in the Middle East that were inspired and propelled by average people using their cell phones, texting and talking to people, protest movements starting up for righteous and interesting causes all over the world because ordinary individuals have access to media. And so we have the opportunity in our classes to examine some of those events and activities and to understand the trends and the trajectories. One of the beautiful things about communication, and particularly the professional areas like journalism, is we don't know where it's going to go. You know, we know that people want to read. We know that people want their news. We know that people want to be connected. But media changes the way that happens, and society changes so rapidly that there are so many opportunities for deciding how that will happen, and some of those opportunities we can't even imagine yet.
Now, some of those opportunities present a problem when talking about at an educational institution and continuing to revamp your programs. So what kind of things would you like to see happening here at Edinboro to make sure that, especially in our media department, that we're continuing to keep up with these trends and teach the students what they need to know to really excel in this profession?
Well, one of the things that I think you need to do is you have to have certain foundations that are more enduring. I mean, obviously the equipment is going to change, the software is going to change, some of those things will change, but some of the foundations are really always going to be there. You've got to have good writing. You have to know how to write. Fundamentally, communication is about telling stories. And I talked to a camera operator who works for the NFL, works for ESPN, does the NFL broadcast, and I just asked him about, what do you do in your job? And he said, basically what I do is figure out how to tell a story through my camera. So it might be a shot of the coach waiting for a field goal, then to the kicker, then back to the coach, then the mother in the stands, then all sorts of things. But what they have to understand is that narrative is what drives everything that we do. And then, of course, you have to have proficiency in the digital culture. You have to understand the digital environment. And so I think if you have that kind of a background in storytelling, narrative, in writing, in the digital environment, then as equipment changes and software changes, you're going to be able to go with the flow. You also have to have that right attitude that says that new things are coming, that we constantly have to refresh ourselves, that we have to constantly re-educate, and in some cases I can't think of the word now, but we need to sort of reinvent ourselves. That's the word I was struggling for. We need to reinvent ourselves. So you have to have that willingness to learn and adapt and be flexible. So if we can sort of coax that understanding and that frame of mind in our students that they already have because of their natural curiosity and the fact that they all are digital natives who grew up in this world, if we can nurture that point of view, that attitude, while we give them some of those foundations, I think our students are always going to be well served by a media education here at Edinboro.
Now, you've seen vast changes in the media world yourself. How have you been able to keep up with this new knowledge and reinvent yourself in a way?
It's hard, and I don't know that I'm as successful at it as I might be. I was intimidated at first, in fact, because people would say, oh, your children are better at this and that than you are, and they grew up with it. One of the things that I found out, though, that was comforting is that my kids who are very good in the digital environment never took a typing class and don't necessarily know some of the software as well as I do. So I'm still teaching them some shortcuts here and there. So I have to say that I'm not a big social media person, and I probably will always be slow in that regard. And I'm certainly not a first adopter when it comes to technology. But I think because of the job, because I work with students, because I have children of my own, I'm always going to be pushed to be refreshed and to be relevant. So I think I have the right attitude. I don't know if I always have the right skill set, but at least I definitely work on it.
Yeah, it certainly helps having children running around and getting into the new technology. Now, how many children do you have?
I have two. I have a 17-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. They're both at General McLean High School.
Oh, great. Have they? Were they at Hawaii with you before this?
Absolutely.
So how have they liked the move into the northern climate?
Well, winter hasn't hit yet, so we'll see, but I think they're both pretty adaptable. We had a big move 8 years ago when we went to Hawaii. We left Los Angeles, and even though there wasn't a big climate change, there was a huge cultural difference. Hawaii is very, very diverse, and so that was a big thing. And we also lived for a semester in Japan as a family. So they've had some experiences that are very different, and I think that, maybe at the moment it's hard to leave your friends, but I think over time, each time it's happened, it's cultivated in them a certain understanding that it's good to see the world, it's good to live in different places, and we're really looking forward to having some fun this winter. So I'd say that things are good as far as that goes.
We'll see if you say the same thing after a few weeks of the snow. Now, the fact that you've been out and seen the world and know the importance of culturing yourself and others, what are some ways that you think that these departments here at Edinboro can better the students' knowledge of different cultures and world awareness?
I think one of the biggest things is it's not enough to just talk about diversity and read about it and discuss it in class. I think you have to actually engage people from other places, people with differences. I see that there is a large population of students here who have different abilities, and I think that that's something that's commendable and something we can build upon. But I also think that we need to have more opportunities for study abroad. We need to have prioritized bringing in international students, and we need to try to make those experiences meaningful. We also have diversity. We need to celebrate diversity in terms of sexual identity and gender and some other ways. And so I think that we need to try to find ways to make them more central in our curriculum and in our programming. And so I'm hoping, I have a lot of faculty that are very interested in diversity, and so I'm very optimistic about the opportunities that we have to make the campus more diverse and to give more opportunities for our students to engage with people who are different from them so that they're better prepared for the world that they encounter after they graduate.
Now, certainly you find yourself here at an interesting time in Edinboro as we're just hit with this retrenchment plan and the budget deficit. What are the ways that you think that, at least in our college, that we can keep our head above water?
Well, I think the basic idea is we have to become financially stable. So we're going to have to immediately do some things that stop the bleeding and get us on the right footing. But at the same time, there are certain areas of this college that can grow, that have been growing, and that are poised for further growth. So the idea is that we want to feed them, we want to grow them so that they can bring in more students, they can raise the quality of their programming, they can enhance the reputation of the university, and that will attract more students to the university, that will bring in more revenue, and with that we're going to selectively build back some of the areas that we've lost and strategically focus on priorities that really make sense for this university so that we can invest. So the idea is to stop the bleeding, but invest strategically in areas where we can grow and strengthen ourselves.
Now, what are some of those areas that you think can grow in this college in the ways that you think they can?
Well, the ones I think you start with are the ones that are already successful, and then you try to build on that. So I think the three areas that jump out are communication and media arts, communication and the applied media arts program and criminal justice. And I think that each of them look different and have different things to offer, and so what we do with them is different. But in all instances, I think that those programs are already strong and can attract more students with just a little bit of work. So some curricular redesigns, maybe adding things like a master's degree in criminal justice. There's a new bachelor's degree in animation and film studies that's moving forward that I think will be very promising. We'd like to add a concentration in the MFA program in animation as well. In communication, I think we have opportunities to really strengthen what we do by focusing more on, I think that there's a lot of overlap between communication studies and some of the other areas, the journalism and public relations areas. And I'd like to see a little bit more of a separation so that they're more distinctive, so that they are attractive to different audiences. There are some people that are really comm studies people, and I think we want to be even stronger at comm studies. And similarly, there are some people that are more on the professional side of communication, and I think we can be stronger there by bulking up some of our courses. I also see co-curricular activities as being part of that, and so I'd like to bring back the debate team and the debate program that we had, give some more emphasis on the Model UN that we already have, and also to begin, we're working on a mock trial team. I think all of these kinds of activities, along with study abroad, service learning, and some of the other things that are high impact experiences, those are the things that really get people interested in the university in the first place, propel their education, and then get them connected to meaningful careers, graduate programs, and to just being a productive citizen.
You know, a big part of developing things like the Model UN and some of those other organizations you mentioned is recruitment with the current students here. What are some ways that you think that we can better reach out to students so that they are more aware of these organizations and these great opportunities they present?
Well, I just had a conversation today, and again, the answer is it's a little bit different for everybody, but part of it is that we have to reach out, and I think that we don't want to rely on university marketing, which is really trying to get the university's name out there. I think that we have to do self-marketing, and part of that involves each of the departments, each of the programs having a stronger presence on the internet. The websites, I think, can be improved, can be made more robust, even interactive, certainly more interesting and informative, and see that as an important way. Secondly, we want to get out there and talk to students more directly, prospective students, go out to the high schools, give talks in our areas of expertise. Professors don't always want to go out and recruit, but they are really good at what they know and what they teach. So let's get them out there and give a little lecture somewhere and give a talk and be available. And from that will come opportunities to talk with students that are interested. So getting out there a little bit. And then the other thing is to try to bring them here. Let's have a mock trial competition on campus. Let's have a debate tournament here on campus. Let's have a Model UN program. We already do some of these things with journalism days and things of that nature. We do it in arts. So there's already stuff in place that's happening, and I think we could just kind of pump up the volume and maybe increase the bandwidth a little bit, doing more things, and I think that that'll really go a long way. And then once that happens, reputation takes off, and the next thing you know, the social networking takes over, where a student or prospective student says, hey, I'm going to Edinboro next week. You want to go with me? And gee, I'm at Edinboro now. It was a great place. And ask those students to maybe go back and visit their high schools and meet with people. And the referral from other students is critical. And then, you know, the other piece is to get the alumni engaged and to continue to work those networks. But a lot of it is networking, and it's doing a lot of different things to have the big impact. It's all the little things. It's fighting the war on multiple fronts that adds up to the victory.
Well, Dr. Kunz, we're certainly excited to have you here and see the impact that you're going to make here at Edinboro University. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just that it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm already getting to meet and know a lot of the faculty and the students, and the more I see, the more I like.
Well, thank you. For ETV, I'm Bryan Baumgartner with Dr. Stephen Combs. Thanks for watching.